Blood in the alley. The scream tore through the alley like a gunshot. Cold air sliced through the empty street behind Old Station Plaza. But that scream, the kind that came from the gut, ripped out by raw terror, shattered the quiet. It wasn't a scream of surprise. It was a scream of fight or die. Then came the sounds, feet stumbling on gravel, a man's voice barking something cruel and desperate, the dull clang of a metal object hitting concrete, and then another sound, a sound no one could ever forget. A blade entering flesh. It was quick, clean, and sickening. Seconds later, the security cameras caught a figure limping out of the alley, blood on his side, eyes wide, breathing heavy. His hand clutched a gash near his ribs, and behind him a young woman was crouched against a dumpster, shaking uncontrollably, clutching her purse and phone like lifelines. His voice, barely a whisper, was caught on the audio pickup from a nearby. "Building CCTV, run, just run!" Then he collapsed. 7 minutes earlier, Mariah and Devon, two tourists from Ohio, were finishing dinner and looking for a shortcut back to their hotel. Google Maps had rerouted them because of downtown construction, leading them behind the old rail yard, an area the locals avoided after dark. Devon, oblivious, was showing Mariah a silly meme on his phone when a man stepped out from behind a dumpster, knife in hand, face obscured by a black beanie, voice cold and direct. "Wallets, phones, don't scream." Mariah froze. Devon held up his hands and said, "We don't want trouble." Then the attacker lunged. In the chaos that followed, Devon stumbled back. The knife caught his jacket, but missed his skin. Mariah screamed and bolted sideways, tripping over loose crates. The man turned to follow her. And that's when he appeared. A man from the shadows. Long coat, unkempt beard, rough hands, eyes. Sharp despite the wear. Marcus. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed a glass bottle from the ground and slammed it against the wall. The jagged edge caught the moonlight just long enough for the attacker to pause. "You want to hurt someone?" Marcus growled. "Try me," the mugger snarled. "You want to die for them?" Marcus didn't flinch. "Rather me than her." It happened fast, a struggle, the knife slashing once, twice, Marcus crying out, the mugger fleeing as Marcus crumpled against the dumpster, blood seeping into his clothes. Devon dragged Mariah to safety. She tried to go back, but Marcus waved them off. "Run. Just run." St. Gabriel Hospital, ER 103. AM Marcus was rushed into surgery. Internal bleeding, punctured kidney, possible infection. His clothes were shredded and layered, soaked. "In blood and city grime," nurses whispered as they cut away his jacket. "Did you hear what he did? Risked his life for strangers. He's homeless? Still jumped in." By morning he was in a medically induced coma. The city knew his first name only because he'd muttered it once to the paramedic who asked. "Name? Marcus. Last name? Doesn't matter. No ID, no phone, no emergency contact. Just a crumpled photo in his inner coat pocket of a boy and a woman standing near a tree, faces half torn by water damage. Detective Selina Hart stood over the crime scene at sunrise. The alley had already been scrubbed, but blood still stained. The cracks in the pavement. Crime scene tape fluttered lazily in the breeze. Selina bent down, her gloved hand brushing aside debris near the dumpster, and paused, a folded note, smudged with blood. She opened it slowly. "You can't undo what you did, but maybe you can make it right. No name, no signature." Her breath caught. The handwriting was unmistakable. She had seen it 8 years ago, in a case that had been sealed so tightly even she wasn't supposed to talk about it. Selina pulled out a folder from her unmarked car and flipped it open. Inside, tucked between documents, was a photo, a military portrait, a young soldier, medal on his chest, clean-cut, determined eyes. "Marcus, where the hell have you been?" she whispered. 5 blocks away, 9:45. A woman in a grey coat stood at the edge of the hospital parking lot, holding a paper cup of untouched coffee. Her hands trembled. She'd seen the headline hours ago while scrolling through Twitter. Homeless. Hero stabbed while saving tourists. City wants to thank him. The picture attached was blurry, but the moment she saw his eyes, she knew. Marcus. She hadn't heard that name in 6 years. Not since the last voicemail he left her. Not since he disappeared without a trace, leaving her with heartbreak, debt, and questions no one could answer. She thought he was dead. Part of her hoped he was. Because if he wasn't, it meant everything. He left behind. Everything he ran from was about to surface again. Her name was Rebecca Lang, and Marcus had once promised to marry her. In Marcus's mind, somewhere between then and now darkness, then fire, screams, sirens, a child's voice, a promise, a face, tears. Please, Marcus, don't leave. We need you. He was reliving something old and terrible. A mission, a mistake, a betrayal. You left us. I had no choice. You ran, and people died. His breathing changed. Machines beeped. A nurse called for a doctor. Detective Selina's apartment. That night she poured whiskey into a chipped glass and stared at the old case file she wasn't supposed to have. It was labeled Opal Dusk, closed, classified. Marcus's photo was on the cover. 8 years ago, he'd been part of a covert military program tied to civilian surveillance, war crimes investigations, and an internal whistleblower scandal. He vanished before testifying. The case crumbled. People lost jobs. One man went to prison. Another took his own life. And now Marcus was back, bleeding in a hospital after saving 2 strangers from being stabbed. Why now? Selina looked at the photo again and muttered, "What are you trying to fix, Marcus?" Back at St. Gabriel, 211, and Marcus's eyes fluttered open for a split second. The nurse noticed and leaned in. He whispered something hoarse and hard to catch. She moved closer. He repeated it. "Tell Rebecca I tried." Then he flatlined. The woman who knew too much. The flatline didn't last more than 15 seconds, but in the trauma ward of St. Gabriel's, 15 seconds can feel like a lifetime. Nurses rushed in. A defibrillator was slapped against Marcus's chest. The second shock brought a jolt and a breath, then another. The monitor screamed back to life in a staggered rhythm. Marcus was alive. Barely. Rebecca Lang never took her eyes off the ICU door. She hadn't been inside, not yet. She didn't know if she could face him. After all these years, her mind kept spiraling. Why now? Why save strangers? And why say her name? 6 years ago, she buried the version of Marcus she once knew. The man who sang off-key in the shower, who carved her initials into the tree behind their house, who said he'd never leave unless he died in combat, but he hadn't died. He had disappeared, and now here he was, alive, broken, bleeding, and suddenly a hero. She turned away from the ICU, struggling to breathe. That's when she heard the voice. "Rebecca Lang." She looked up. Detective Selina, heart-sharp blazer, cold eyes. The kind of presence that made you feel like you'd already been caught for something. "Yeah, that's me. I'm Detective Hart. I need to ask you a few questions about Marcus." Rebecca nodded slowly, voice tight. "He's supposed to be dead." Selina's lips twitched, not quite a smile, not quite sympathy. "You and me both." Flashback, 6 years earlier. Rebecca remembered the night he left, every sound, every lie. It had started with silence. Marcus came home late from his security job, soaked in sweat and visibly shaken. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Just tired," she pressed. He deflected. He hugged her a little too long that night, kissed her with urgency, and then he vanished. The next morning, phone disconnected, apartment stripped bare, bank account emptied, she filed a report. No leads, no closure, everyone told her to move on. But something never sat right, because days before he vanished, Marcus had said something. Strange. If anything ever happens to me, and don't believe the official story. She thought he was just being dramatic, paranoid even. Now she wasn't so sure. Back in the present, Selena and Rebecca sat across from each other in the hospital cafeteria. "He left you?" Selena asked. "No, he disappeared. There's a difference." Selena nodded. "Do you know anything about a program called Opal Dusk?" Rebecca blinked. "What?" Selena watched her reaction carefully. "I think Marcus got involved in something darker than either of us ever knew, a military intelligence operation. It was sealed years ago. Everyone involved either vanished, died, or went to prison." Rebecca leaned forward. "And what does that have to do with a mugging in an alley?" Selena slid the bloodied note across the table. "You can't undo what you did, but maybe you can make it right. He wrote this?" Rebecca whispered. Selena tapped the paper. "Recognized the handwriting?" She hesitated. "Yes." Meanwhile, news of the homeless hero spread fast. Social media blew up with hashtags. Alley Angel, de-hero, without a home. Marcus, the brave people donated. A GoFundMe started overnight. By morning it had crossed $50,000. Talk shows wanted interviews. The mayor's office called the hospital requesting to visit him, but behind the PR buzz was a darker truth. Marcus wasn't just a homeless man who stumbled into heroism. He had chosen that alley. At that time, that night, Selena's gut told her this wasn't coincidence, it was strategy. Days later, Marcus opened his eyes, weak, groggy, but conscious. Rebecca was sitting by his bed. She didn't speak at first, neither did he. They just stared at each other, both searching for traces of who they used to be. She was the first to break the silence. "Why did you leave me?" His answer came slowly. "Because staying would have gotten you killed." Tears filled her eyes. "I was pregnant." The heart monitor beeped faster. He closed his eyes in pain. "I didn't know." Our son would have been 5 now. Marcus didn't speak. His hands trembled. Rebecca stood. Her voice cracked. "You don't get to say sorry. You don't get to be a hero now. You broke everything." He whispered something as she turned to leave. "He had my eyes?" She froze. "Brown," she said, "like yours. And he smiled when he kicked, just like you used to when you ran in your sleep." Then she left. Marcus wept silently. Detective Hart entered minutes later. She stood at the foot of his bed. "You remember me?" He nodded weakly. "You're not here by chance," she said. "You picked that alley. You wanted to be found." Marcus didn't answer. Selena pulled out her phone and played a voice memo. A man's voice crackled through the speaker. "Tell Marcus. They found the tapes. Opal Dusk's not as dead as we thought." Marcus's face twisted with fear. "Who sent?" "That?" Selena stared him down. "A man who died in a hit-and-run the next day, the same night you got stabbed." Marcus tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "They're still watching." "Who?" "The ones who built the program, the ones who buried it. They're not done. They're cleaning up." Selena sat beside him. "Then we better unbury it fast." That night, a shadow watched the hospital from across the street. Black coat, gloves, earpiece. He spoke into a mic under his collar. "Marcus Lang is awake," a voice replied. "Begin phase 2. Ghosts in the surveillance room." The hospital smelled like bleach and quiet dread. Marcus hadn't slept. His body was stitched, his ribs wrapped, and the painkillers made time move strangely, slow in some moments, then slipping like sand through his fingers. But none of that mattered, because they knew he was alive, and that meant they were coming. Rebecca didn't want to return, but something dragged her back, like a thread still tying her to him, torn, frayed, but unbroken. She brought him a cup of black coffee the way he used to take it. When she entered the room, he looked like he hadn't blinked in hours. "You okay?" she asked. "They killed Derek," Marcus said. His voice was hoarse. Rebecca froze. "Derek Martin, your old army. Buddy, he sent a message before he died. Said the tapes were found." Rebecca set the coffee down with a trembling hand. "What tapes?" Marcus looked at her for a long time. Then he whispered, "Evidence of what they did to us, to civilians, to each other." Flashback. Afghanistan, 2017. They were called Opal Dusk, an elite unit in theory, but in practice, a lab experiment in human obedience. They weren't supposed to kill civilians, but when the orders came down, wrapped in black ops secrecy, everything changed. Surveillance turned into setup. Targets became collateral. Disobedience meant disappearing. Marcus had wanted out. So had Derek. So had 3 others. 2 died in training accidents. 1 vanished en route home. Marcus had run, faked his own death, and he'd stayed dead until now. Detective Selena Hart reviewed the hospital's security footage, but someone had tampered with it. The mugging was there, the stabbing, the ambulance. Arriving, but the hours before, were gone. Wiped. Intentionally. Only 1 partial clip survived, damaged, but salvageable. In it, Marcus stood across the street from the alley 2 hours before the crime. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't homeless-looking. He was waiting. Selena leaned closer. Someone else was with him. A tall figure, face obscured by a hoodie, handed Marcus an envelope. Then the clip cut off. She stared at the frozen screen. Who had Marcus been waiting for that night? Marcus received a package, no sender. Just a white envelope slid under his hospital room door. Inside, a flash drive, a hand-drawn symbol, a triangle with a vertical slash through it, and a single line in red ink. "They know you're awake," his pulse spiked. That symbol, it was etched onto the notebooks they were issued in Opal Dusk. A unit mark, a warning, a brand. He jammed the nurse call button. When no one came, his throat tightened. He pulled himself out of bed, shaking, bleeding through his bandages. Every movement screamed. He hobbled to the door. The hallway was empty. Too empty. Meanwhile, Detective Hart traced the flash drive's origin. A tech at the police department decrypted the files, surveillance footage, reports, audio logs, everything hidden from public record. And then, a video. Timestamp, August 3rd, 2017. Location, Opal Dusk Forward Operating Base. Subject, Interrogation 6C. Marcus appeared on screen, bloodied, tied to a chair. A senior officer asked one question again. And again, "Who did you tell? Who did you tell? Who did you tell?" And Marcus, nearly broken, whispered something indecipherable. The officer leaned closer. Marcus coughed. Then he spat blood in the man's face and said, "Only 1 person, and she thinks I'm dead." Detective Hart hit pause. She whispered aloud, "Rebecca." Rebecca was sitting on the edge of Marcus's hospital bed, gripping the flash drive. Her hands shook. "This proves what they did. Why didn't you release it before? Because back then no one would have believed me. We were ghosts, Rebecca. We were disposable." She stared at him. "So why surface now?" He looked at her with eyes hollowed by years of running. "Because I couldn't die with this secret, and I couldn't let them erase me without trying to fix what I did." Rebecca swallowed. "You said you told 1 person. Me?" Marcus nodded. "When I left, I mailed you a letter, with a code, a backup plan." Rebecca blinked. "I never got it." Marcus leaned back, realization dawning. Then someone intercepted. Back at the precinct, Detective Hart hit a wall. Every time she tried to access further military records, her clearance was denied, even flagged. Calls went unanswered. Her laptop glitched. Her badge number was locked out of systems she had used daily. Someone was scrubbing Marcus's story from the inside. She called her former mentor in D.C., retired agent Carlos Mendez. When she asked about Opal Dusk, there was a pause. "You still breathing?" he asked. "Last I checked." "Then forget you ever heard that name." "Can't. 1 of them's in my city, and he's being hunted." Carlos sighed. "Then you're in the blast radius, Hart." That evening, A man in scrubs entered Marcus's hospital room. No name tag. Rebecca, sitting nearby, didn't think twice, until she saw his hands. Not clean. Scarred. Calloused. Marcus noticed too. "You're not a nurse," he said quietly. The man pulled out a syringe. "You shouldn't have woken up." Rebecca screamed. Marcus, despite his injuries, lunged forward and slammed the call button. The man drove the needle into Marcus's IV, but Rebecca grabbed a metal tray and smacked it into the man's temple. He staggered, then fled. Security arrived. Seconds later, but the man vanished like smoke. The next day, Marcus was moved to a secure room. Armed guards, cameras, no visitors except Rebecca and Detective Hart. Selina paced in the hallway, thinking aloud. "Someone doesn't want you to talk, which means we need to make noise." Marcus shook his head. "If you go public, you'll be next." "Too late," she said, showing him her locked-out credentials. "They already know I'm involved." Rebecca stared at them both. "So what do we do?" Selina paused, then said one word. "Leak it." That night, a video went live on a hidden whistleblower website, Marcus's story, his confession. Footage from the flash drive, his face visible, his name spoken, and this closing line, "They tried to bury me, but I'm not staying dead this time." Within hours, the story went viral. Then came the threats. A call to Selina's phone. "You've made a mistake, detective. One you won't live to regret." An anonymous letter at Rebecca's apartment. "You were supposed to forget. You still can." Marcus's room was shot at the next morning. No one was hit, but a message was carved into the hallway wall outside. His door, "Dead men shouldn't wake up," cliffhanger. Marcus has gone public, but at what cost? The program's shadows are closing in. Rebecca and Selina are now targets too. What happens when powerful people realize the truth is out? And can Marcus survive the storm he just unleashed? The man in the silver Jeep. The streets buzzed with sirens. Good that night, but no one was coming for them. Not officially, not anymore. Marcus sat upright in his hospital bed, every inch of his body screaming. The blood-stained bandage on his side had just been changed, but it already looked soaked again. Across the room, Rebecca stood frozen, her eyes locked on the bullet holes in the window. "They're not going to stop," Marcus muttered. "They don't need to kill me. They just need to erase me again." Rebecca turned toward him. "Then we leave, tonight, before they come back." He shook his head. "I'm not running this time." Detective Selina Hart's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. News sites, anonymous tips, threats. Her inbox was a battlefield. The video had gone viral. Over 3 million views in just 24 hours. Veterans were sharing their own stories. Shadowy accounts were trying to discredit Marcus, calling him unstable, paranoid, dishonorably discharged. But something deeper rattled her. She received a burner email. No subject, no body, just an attachment. Named Truth Awaits, MP4. She clicked. A military funeral played on screen. A coffin draped in the flag, soldiers saluting. Then a caption appeared. "He didn't die of war, he died of silence. Don't be next." Her hands went cold. That was Derek Martin's funeral. The man Marcus claimed was murdered. Later that night, Marcus's room was moved again, this time off the hospital grid, a private wing, no public access, no listed floor. Selina coordinated with a trusted veteran nurse who owed her a favor. The nurse's son had been in Opal Dusk too, until he disappeared without a trace in 2019. Everyone involved was risking everything. Marcus turned to Selina. "How long do we have?" Selina didn't answer directly. Instead, she handed him a photo, a still frame. From airport security, 2 men, military build, dark clothing, approaching a terminal just days ago. One had a scar running from his temple to his jawline. "Recognize him?" she asked. Marcus's lips tightened. "Yeah, that's Colonel Jace Rayner. He ran our black site interrogations. He was supposed to be dead." Meanwhile, a silver jeep watched the hospital from across the street. Inside sat a man in a black coat, chewing a toothpick. On his dash was a map with one location circled, Hart's apartment. He picked up a flip phone. They're all still breathing, but not for long. The line clicked dead. He started the engine. Rebecca begged Marcus to run. "You don't have to do this anymore. You've told the truth. Let's disappear, somewhere they can't find us." Marcus looked at her, eyes red, voice low. "The truth is half a war. The other half is surviving it. Then survive with me," she pleaded. "Don't let them take you from me again." Marcus reached for her hand, held it tighter than ever. "If anything happens to me, don't stop. Keep digging. Find the black box." She froze. "Black box? It's not a metaphor, it's real. Derek hid it. A hard drive with everything. Names, orders, files, stuff that could burn DC to the ground." Her breath caught. "Where is it?" Marcus looked at her. "He left it for you." Selena was ambushed. She was walking to her car, keys in hand, when a man appeared behind her. Black gloved, no face. She turned just in time as the man lunged with a knife. She dodged, rolled, pulled her gun, and fired twice. The man collapsed, groaning but not dead. Selena ripped off his mask. She knew his face. He was FBI, still wearing a regulation earpiece. He coughed blood and grinned. "You think you're the good guy, detective?" Selena's voice didn't shake. "I'm the one still breathing, that's good enough." Back at Marcus's hideout wing, the power went out, a total blackout, security systems dead. Backup generators silent. Rebecca grabbed the emergency flashlight, trembling. "Marcus!" Silence. Then, movement at the door. She grabbed a chair, held it like a weapon. The door opened. It was Marcus, barely standing, holding his IV pole. Cut the power. We have minutes." He opened a hidden panel beneath the hospital bed. Inside was a military-grade burner phone and a small USB drive. He handed it to Rebecca. "This has GPS coordinates. Derek's last safe house. Go." She shook her head. "Not without you. You have to. This ends with you now." Rebecca made it out. Using a service elevator, she slipped into the basement garage and escaped in Selena's backup cruiser. She followed the GPS to the edge of the city, an old barn in the outskirts, covered in vines and forgotten memories. Inside, under a loose floorboard, she found it. A metal case, locked with a thumbprint scanner. She tried hers. It worked. Inside, a hard drive, photos, names, and ranks payment records from offshore accounts, and a letter, handwritten. "Rebecca, if you're reading this, they got to us. But they didn't win. Finish what we started." Derek, she sank to her knees, crying. It had all been real, every nightmare, every ghost. Marcus was gone. When Selena returned to the hospital wing, she found blood. No body, no signs of struggle beyond a tipped IV stand and broken window latch. Not even security footage, because the cameras were offline. All she found was a note written in Marcus's handwriting on the wall. "You can't kill what's already dead." Selena called Rebecca. Her voice was hollow. "He's gone." Rebecca whispered, "No, he's alive. He left me the black box." Selena's breath caught. "Then we have everything we need." That night, in a quiet motel room, Rebecca powered on the hard drive. As the files loaded, she saw videos of operations that had never been acknowledged, names of innocent civilians marked as test subjects. A photo of Marcus with 6 others circled in red, and one word typed again and again in a classified document: exterminate. Suddenly, the motel TV turned on by itself, static, then a voice. "Nice work, Rebecca. Now run." She yanked the plug, grabbed the drive, fled. But as she reached the parking lot, the silver Jeep was waiting. Shadows never bleed. The silver Jeep didn't follow her with headlights. It stalked her. Rebecca swerved through the darkness, eyes darting between the road and the rearview mirror. She'd memorized every twist in the country road. The hard drive, the black box, was duct-taped under her seat. Her phone vibrated. A single message. "We don't need to kill you, just what's in your hands." She turned it off and tossed it out the window. She had to find Selina. Detective. Selina Hart was packing, not for a trip, but for war body armor, backup weapons, a satellite phone. Her apartment had become a command post, a corkboard covered with red strings, names, photographs. At the center, Colonel Jace Rayner, the man. Marcus once said, ran hell in silence. The door buzzed. Rebecca stood there, soaked in sweat, black box clutched to her chest. Selina's eyes widened. "You found it," Rebecca nodded. "And they found me." In an underground safe house 2 states away, Marcus opened his eyes. He wasn't dead, not yet. A blood bag hung from a hook, dripping slowly into his arm. Across from him sat a man with grey-streaked hair, one hand missing, the other tapping a metal desk. "You're lucky they wanted answers before they burned you," the man said. "Me? I'm just the translator between death and orders." Marcus croaked. "Who the hell are you?" "Call me Shepard." Marcus laughed bitterly. "They sent a myth to kill a ghost." Shepard didn't smile. "No, they sent me to watch. You're the bait." Back at Selina's, Rebecca sat trembling. Selina opened the black box drive on her secure laptop. The screen filled with chaos. Names, faces, satellite logs, signatures. This could collapse half the Defense Department, Selina whispered. "They'll do anything to erase it," Rebecca said. "They already tried, twice." One file had a title, Opal Dusk, Civilian Expungement, Phase 2. Inside were names of people scheduled to be eliminated, whistleblowers, former soldiers, even foreign journalists. At the top of the list, Marcus Vane, Rebecca Grant, Selina Hart. The motel explosion hit the news that morning. No survivors. The government said it was a gas leak, but Rebecca knew better. That was the place she'd almost stayed. The night before. "They're one step behind," she whispered. "For now." Selina stood up. "Then we flipped the script." She inserted the hard drive into an encrypted satellite sender. The plan was to upload the files to multiple international outlets at once. No one could stop them all. But just before she hit send, the signal died. The laptop smoked. "EMP strike," Selina gasped. "They're close." Marcus was dreaming of fire, of Derek burning in a tent, of children crying in Arabic, of gunfire, followed by silence so loud it deafened him. He woke up tied to a chair. Shepard was gone. Instead, Colonel Jace Rayner stepped into the light. Alive. Older. Scarred. "I told them you'd be trouble, and here we are." Marcus smiled through blood. "Still talking. That means you're nervous." Rayner crouched. "You don't get it. You were never the hero, just the test subject who wouldn't break." Marcus whispered, "Then test this." He bit down on the capsule in his molar. Nothing happened. Rayner grinned. "We neutralized your fail-safes. You're not in charge anymore." Selina and Rebecca fled to an old news contact, Luis Calderon, a war correspondent turned ghostwriter. They met him in a warehouse he used for off-the-grid stories. Luis read the drive, eyes widening with every scroll. "This isn't just war crimes. It's an entire black government." He handed them burner phones and a plan. Use pirate satellite relays, split the data into 6 packets, upload from different cities, same hour. "They can't kill ghosts in every town," Luis said. Selina nodded. "Then let's become ghosts." But it was already too late. The warehouse's power cut off. Drones hovered outside, buzzing like hornets. Rebecca grabbed the black box. Selina pulled her gun. Luis opened the floor hatch. "Go now." As Rebecca descended, she turned back. Luis was already engulfed in flames. They ran through sewer tunnels, boots splashing, breath ragged. Behind them, explosions. They emerged in a construction site 5 miles away. Selina collapsed. "We need to end this now." Rebecca opened the hard drive. It had survived, but a new folder had appeared. "Live feed, room 21A." They clicked. Marcus was on screen, bloody, barely alive, and behind him, Raina. "Let's make this public, shall we?" he said to the camera. The video went viral within hours. The government tried to shut it down, but thousands had already screen-recorded it. Raina admitted to everything. Opal dusk, civilian erasure, genetic trials, psychological rewiring. But then he laughed. "We're not hiding anymore, because you can't stop what's already in motion." He raised a gun to Marcus's head. "Say goodbye to your truth." Before he pulled the trigger, Marcus spoke. "If you kill me, 1,000 more will rise. You trained us to survive. We learned too well." Bang! But the screen didn't go black. Instead, chaos erupted. Shots, alarms, flash grenades. Selena had leaked the bunker coordinates to every known hacktivist and Black Ops journalist online. Hundreds stormed the facility. Underground camera feeds showed explosions, soldiers fleeing, files burning. In the chaos, Raina escaped. But Marcus was pulled from the wreckage, barely breathing, 2 days later. Marcus was alive. In a real hospital this time, surrounded by real security. Rebecca held his hand. "They can't erase you now." Selena walked in. She handed Rebecca a tablet. The news headlines read, "Global outrage, secret military crimes exposed, whistleblower saves, thousands from execution." Remember Opal trending in 40 countries, governments were scrambling. Arrests were beginning. Colonel Raina, however, was still missing, and a new video had surfaced. It was a recording of Raina, taken after the raid. He stood in a dark room, smiling at the camera. This was only phase 1. The man who wouldn't die, Marcus, walked slowly through the field of microphones. He wasn't in chains. He wasn't hiding. He stood beneath a global banner, International Human Rights Tribunal. Reporters screamed questions. "Do you regret what you did? How did you survive? Where is Raina now?" He didn't answer. He looked into the cameras and said only one thing. "They thought I was disposable. They were wrong." 6 weeks earlier. The hospital room reeked of bleach and quiet dread. Marcus lay still, skin pale, heart weak. Machines beeped irregularly. Selena sat nearby, scrolling through encrypted news feeds. Rebecca stood by the window. She had barely slept since the bunker raid. "They say he has less than 48 hours, a nurse whispered. "Too much internal damage." But Marcus wasn't done. That night, with his voice hoarse, he whispered to Rebecca, "Don't let this end with me." She held his hand, tears streaking down her face. "It won't." Selena knew what had to be done. She left the hospital that morning, alone. She followed a digital trail, coded messages in dark web forums, old military login shells, dead URLs that came back to life when she entered Marcus's name. One led her to a warehouse in Bucharest. Inside, a hooded man awaited her. His voice rasped like ash. "We were the ghosts before Marcus, and we're still breathing." Selena narrowed her eyes. "You're what's left of Project Black Echo." The man nodded. "Marcus burned us to the ground from the inside out. But if he's alive, we rise again." The world was unraveling. Governments scrambled to deny the Opal Dusk files. Protests exploded across cities. Families searched for loved ones once thought dead. And somewhere in the noise, Raina resurfaced. He hacked global news feeds. He appeared wearing the insignia of a new organization. Phase 2, humanity reinvented. "You think truth sets you free?" Raina said. "Truth is weakness. Control is the cure. We will start again without you." He issued a threat. Every person named in the black box files would be hunted, eliminated, and forgotten. Marcus survived, barely. Doctors called it miraculous. But really, it was grit. On his second day awake, he requested a mirror. He stared at his own scarred face for a full 5 minutes. Then he asked for a pen, and he began writing. Rebecca became his voice. She read his words aloud during live broadcasts. "I was born to disappear, But now the world sees me. People began to rally around him. From Paris to Cape Town to Sydney, they called themselves the Unforgotten, survivors, whistleblowers, truth-bearers. Rebecca led the charge. Selena worked from the shadows, and Marcus wrote. Then came the final lead. One of the Black Echo remnants Selena had met in Romania reached out. Rainer's building something in Greenland. Biogenetics, weapons that don't use bullets. He plans to demonstrate it. One target, Marcus Vane. They had one shot. It was suicide. Marcus insisted, if I disappear again, I do it by choice. Not fear. They traveled with aliases. Marcus, Rebecca, Selena, and 2 Black Echo survivors. They reached the outskirts of an unmarked Arctic facility buried in ice. Marcus said nothing as they suited up, but his eyes burned like fire. Inside the bunker, it wasn't guns they faced. It was machines, drones the size of fists, biological weapons suspended in glass tanks, AI-controlled gates. Rainer had built a world for himself where morality was extinct, and he was waiting. As Marcus entered the control room, Rainer stood at a terminal. I was hoping you'd come. Marcus raised his weapon. I came to end it. Rainer smiled. You can't kill the future. He pressed a button. The room began to tremble. Fail safe, he whispered. If I die, so does the data. And everyone in this base. But Marcus had learned one thing from pain. Leverage is only power when no one's willing to burn. He walked forward, gun lowered. Rainer raised his pistol, but Rebecca appeared behind him. You always forget the people you call weak, she shot. Him in the spine. Rainer collapsed. Selena rushed to the control terminal. I can stop the self-destruct if I disable the core AI. She began typing. Glass cracked around the bioweapons. A countdown began. Marcus, she yelled. If we leave now, we survive. If we stay, we finish it, he said. 10 minutes later, the Arctic base erupted in blue fire. Drones exploded mid-air. The ice shelf shattered, and from the wreckage, only 3 figures emerged. Marcus, Rebecca, Selena. 2 weeks later, Marcus testified before the tribunal. The black box data had triggered global inquiries. War criminals were arrested. Secret prisons uncovered. Funding trails exposed. But more importantly, the world listened. Epilogue. 1 year later, a small community center opened in Oregon. Its sign read, The Unforgotten Project. Inside were photos of missing persons found, records of wrongs righted, rooms where trauma could breathe and heal. Marcus stood at the front door wearing clean clothes. Rebecca was beside him, now a journalist. Selena ran international security for whistleblowers. Boy approached Marcus. My mom says you saved her life. Marcus knelt. I didn't save her. She saved herself. I just helped her believe she could. The boy smiled. Are you a hero? Marcus looked at Rebecca, then at the sky. No. Just someone who stopped running. Final lesson sometimes when the world discards you, that's when you find your real strength. Being forgotten doesn't mean you're invisible, and losing everything might just be the start of becoming unstoppable. The end.